Okay, so now we're going to go to InDesign, and you're going to want to go to File, New Document, Tabloid. Again, I want mine to be vertical. If you want your design to be horizontal, that's fine. Whatever works for you. So here we go. Here's my new document. And I am going to say File, Place. Okay. Oops. And by the way, I went File, Place, and it brought me to this window. And if I hit the space bar, so you can see definitely I had something over here because it put all that extra white. Oh, jinkies. All right, we're gonna hit Open and place it. I would go back and fix that. I should fix it. So I want to make sure, there we go. I'm going to use my little arrow keys to make sure we have some bleed all around. Okay, there we go. Everything all around has some bleed. I'm just going to pull that frame over. So how the frames work on things in InDesign, if it's blue, you can move it over and cut off extraneous things. And if you turn it to, you double click on the middle, then you can move the image within the frame, which I don't want to do. You can see it's brown out here when that happens. I'm going to lock this layer. I don't want to move it. So in window layers, I'm going to lock it. And actually, before I lock it, I'll just double click it and I'll name it the band's name, Blanche. Then I'll lock it. And now I'll put a new layer above. I'll call that text. I'll hit OK. And I will say File, Place, and grab some text. And hit Open. And then we get this text box here. And I am going to click and drag it from corner to corner. First thing I notice is I don't really like the texture behind it. It's not too readable. So I have a couple options. I could go back and put a white box behind here, or I can do it in InDesign. I'm going to make another layer. I'm going to drag this layer below text. I'll just call it white box. I could also, by the way, have saved the word Blanche and just put it in here by itself, or I could have typed it in InDesign. All right, so I'm seeing that, now ignore that I don't really like this text overlapping here. So there's something we're going to do about that too. But first, let's go to our white box, and then we're going to hit the rectangle tool. And I am going to choose white. And it's easier with lab color. If you click this button for lab color and move it to the top for white, there we go. Oops, I selected the text box. I didn't want to do that. Okay. There we go. Because there, now I've got, no, I still did it again. Command Z, there we go. Make sure it's not selected. I'm on the white box layer. Oh, Lordy. Now I can drag this out. In fact, I'm going to drag it like this. Oh, I kind of have green. How'd I end up with that? This is what happens when you do tutorials late at night. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I want to make that kind of see-through. And here, where most places it would be opacity, here it's effects. So if you don't have that up, you can say window effects. And you can actually change the blend modes. There's also different blend modes. But I'm just going to pull the opacity down a little so I can see a little bit of that texture in the background. And in fact, let me just pull this up more. There we go. Right now it has a hard edge. If we wanted to have a soft edge, again, we'll go across from the word effects over to this area of extra special things, and then we'll go to effects and we will say basic feather. And again, you have to click preview and you can feather it out so that you don't see a line. You can make that higher and hit OK. So there's not like a line defining it. Now you might have to pull this box out bigger because it'll feather in, so you can see this is getting wider over here. And I want to make sure I select that white box, so I just click on that little square there, same thing as in Illustrator. So this kind of thing might be easier in Illustrator if you set it up like this, but I'm just showing you how to do it in InDesign. And I covered Blanche with it mainly because I didn't want it to look like that. I thought that might look a little weird. Maybe not. I don't know. Okay. Let's say we want to not have the text covering this part of the letter. So let's go to the text box. Layer, the layer with the text box. And I'm gonna grab the pen tool. Now you could use any of the shapes as well. I'm gonna drag a shape out. Oops. A little glitch there. That's all right. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you'll see why in a second. So there we go. That looks reasonable. So now the text is going under it, so that is not good. What we can do is we can say window text wrap. And I'm going to click this one right here, wrap around object or shape. And you can see it wrapped around. Now this right here is how much space is around your object. So if I move that up, you can see it's making this double line here. And by the way, this is designated red. So that's why this shows up red. If yours shows up a different color, that's okay. So I think like I was giving it a little extra space, which I thought it kind of needed. Now, you're like, that looks dumb with the box there. That's okay. We'll just click this box and we'll say no fill, no stroke. And now the invisible box is just hiding. Let me hide all the boxes. is just knocking this text over. So from here on out, we're going to go and format our text. So up here, I'm going to click and find the columns, which I have to draw my window up bigger for. There we go, I want 2. Now, if you're doing yours horizontal, you might, depending on how you're setting it up, you could maybe even use more than 2. You might need 3 even. You always want to make sure it's readable across the column, that it's not so short you're having to constantly go like this, and it's not so long you're reading all the way across and having to go back, reading across and having to go back. There is a formula, but I think you can visually see that. All right, so first thing, we're going to grab our text. I've just hit Command A to highlight it all, and we are going to make it 10 points because 12 points is kind of big. Now, if you get these gray lines, that is called Greeking, when it shows you gray lines instead of the text. So that's in our character box. And in our paragraph box, we're going to go over here, and we are going to justify with last line a line left. You don't have to do that, but I think it's a good thing to do for this project. It gives you a little more of a challenge, which is good. And now we have it set up correctly. We need to format it using our paragraph box, and we're going to go to Type, Show Hidden Characters. It's all the way at the bottom of the Type menu. And then, of course, we'll see all these little guys here. This is a paragraph return. And we only want one of those because we use those to set up our spacing. And we only want one. These little dots are the space bar. And you also want to see if there's any M or N dashes. So this particular text has an M-EM, and you're going to want to go ahead and change that into a proper M dash. And how you do that is you select it, and it's Option Shift hyphen. Come on, hold on. Computer's being a crank. Option Shift hyphen, there we go. And on this side, I'm going to do it as well, Option Shift hyphen. So it's like, you know, parentheses, you know, anytime that's how it's used. And M-E-M, and it's the space of a lowercase m. And N dash is for like time. So that's a lowercase n. I don't think we have any, I haven't seen anything with N dashes in it yet. So like between dates or something. I can show you a way to get rid of all the double returns in one fell swoop. So let me just quickly peruse this. Oh, so here we go. Here's an album title, Bird Brains, which is not italicized. So you will want to italicize that. So I'm going to say italic. Now, actually, I want to change this font, so I'm just going to hit Command A to select everything. And I'm going to change it to Adobe Garamond Pro, and I have to change my bird brains again. Oh no, it didn't. It kept the italics. Yay! All right, so when you're doing text, you either want to use, you can use a slab serif, an old style serif, or a nice simple sans serif. Now you only want to choose the sans serif if it's something that needs to look kind of more modern, then you would choose the sans serif. But for actual printed material, usually the old style serif is the easiest to read, although slab is perfectly acceptable, as is a nice simple sans. Okay, so I'm going to select everything. Well, actually, I'm just going to use, let me zoom out here. I'll just use the black arrow to select my text box. And I'm going to go to Layout, no, to Edit, sorry, Edit, Find, Change. The hotkey is Command F. Oh, my secret's been given away. Okay. If you go over here, and it seems like you would go here, but that shows you previous things you've done. If you go over here, you can find all sorts of, there we go, end of paragraph, all sorts of little things that indicate symbols. Now, it doesn't look like that backwards P, but that's where it is. So I want to find any double ends of paragraphs and change it to a single paragraph. And then I'm going to hit change all, and it should 16 replacements. So here we go. Now when we go back, we're going to just see one paragraph return. And I'm not going to take the time to go through all this. Make sure I got all the M dashes and that there aren't any N E N dashes for duration and that everything's italicized. You know what to do. All right, so now we've got this selected. And we're going to go to paragraph, this paragraph box. And when I put my cursor over this, it says space before. I'm going to put 10 PT. Now, if I click off it, it'll change it to the current measurement, which I believe is picas. Let me select it again. And let me put my cursor in here. And again, putting your cursor in the box, I'm going to zoom out one. It's blinking there in that box. I'm going to push the down arrow and it'll bring the number down. I think that looks pretty nice. I am, however, going to torment you about widows and orphans. So a widow is a single line word on a line. It's supposed to be, yeah, that's 8 characters plus a period. I don't know. That looks I think another word could be down there. So a couple different things you can do is you can look at your body copy. Is there anything you could spell out? So DIY, I'm just going to spell that out and it'll knock another word down. Do it yourself. Musical aesthetic. There we go. Knocked it right down the next line. It's taken care of. Here we have stories. So if there is a quote, by the way, like right here, this is a whole long quote. We don't want to change someone's quote. Don't change that. One thing you can do, and this is different than, so if I hit a paragraph return, it's going to put that extra space because in the paragraph box, we said, put this much space between paragraphs, which are created when we hit return. However, if we don't want to create another paragraph, we hold the shift down and hit return. So I knocked people's stories down the next line. Now, one thing you want to make sure is make sure none of the words are getting crazy and kind of the spacing isn't getting crazy. And that looks fine. It was fine to knock this down the next line. It doesn't look bad. You also want to look for excessive hyphenation. If you're seeing excessive hyphenation, and I'm not, there's only a couple. So, but if you saw a lot, that's called ladders. You don't want that. And you want to think, maybe I need to change my line length. Maybe my font is not 10 point. You need to look at that and see why that's happening. Okay, so let's zoom out. And there we go. That looks pretty nice. All right, and now we'll change it to indents. So let me zoom in with a baseline grid. There's some things in all caps here which I don't like. Let me change that. It's making me angry. Every day. This person's name. Random all caps is just not the best. Okay. Performance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's a big enough word. It's fine by itself. Okay. So I'm just going to go over here to my paragraph and put it to 0 and return. And here, I'm going to put my cursor over it, first line indent. Same thing, 10 PT I'm going to put in there for point. And I can put my cursor in there. If I don't think it's a big enough indent, I can go up a little, or I can go down. I'm actually going to give this, in my character box, another point of leading. And when you put your cursor over that, it'll say leading. So I'm going to make it 13. Now, one thing you don't want to indent is the first line. It's the first line. You're not differentiating it from another paragraph. So if I just select it, go back to my paragraph box and go to first line indent and put it to 0. There we go. No first line indent. Perfect. All right. I'm going to go view grids and guides, show baseline grid, and it's not showing up because maybe it's covered by this image. Yep, there it is. I'm just going to turn the image off and you can see the baseline grid. What's so great about the baseline grid? Well, it gives you something to align everything to, even across pages. So we're going to go InDesign, Preferences, Grids, and we want to increment it every 13 points, just like our leading. We want our baseline grid to match our leading. Our leading is the space between lines. So the baseline grid is showing your space between lines. I'm going to hit OK. And now, if I go to my paragraph box, down here, this is not aligned to baseline grid. And watch right here, when I click this here, which will align to the baseline grid, you're going to see all this text jump. There we go. Now you have to pick one. You have to pick space between or indents aligned to baseline grid, because if you put space between with this, it's going to be too big. It's going to match your leading, which will be too large. Let me turn my background on, and there we go. Now to save it, first off, let's save as. I'm just going to save it into my, I'm going to click on my band example. I'm going to hit new folder. I'll call it Blanche Final. I still have all my assets in that, and I've kept them. I've kept my everything all the way along, and trust me, that's like great to do. You really want to do that. And I'll name this InDesign document Blanche, and I'll save it into this folder. Now, after I've done that, the next thing I want to do is say File, Package. And I don't see any errors. Looks great. By the way, you don't have to use all the text that comes with your band, just enough to make a couple columns so you can format text. And if you have more, you'll see this right here, this little plus. And if I were to click that, I could keep going. Boom, there's my text. So if I was going across multiple pages, I could thread the text through. So File, Package. Let's go back there. We're going to hit Package. Oh, sure, yeah, I'll save it. And it's trying to go the wrong place again. Okay. And now I'm going to hit Package. Notice I have include PDF, print file. I'll hit Package. Okay, this overset text means I didn't use all the text. It's squawking at me for not using all the text. It's a warning in case, you forgot something, but we're purposely not using it at all. So we're just going to say, that's okay, I'm living on the edge. So hit OK. And it's going to gather up all our images, all our fonts. And now when I go to the folder, here's the InDesign document that I first saved. You probably actually wouldn't want to open that because it wouldn't have its linked file. So it just makes, it does make you save it. So here we go. Here's the packaged file. And this is really what we want. So here is our InDesign document. INDD is the InDesign file. This IDML is like a descriptor file. Here's all our fonts we used, and we only used Adobe Gammon Pro because the image was pixel based. And then here's our links, and it's just the Blanche link. And here is our PDF. And it has little crop marks on it to cut down the document properly, showing people who print it how to trim it properly. You can send, and a lot of printers just want a PDF. However, if something goes wrong with your PDF and it doesn't print right, you're going to need all your other stuff to go back, figure out the error, and repair your document.